cold, deep voice was echoed all over the room. His tone was broken. A man who always suppressed his emotion was standing in front of the woman, his woman, being not able to control his emotions. A wave of betrayal shattered him. While she was standing still in his hold, pinned against the wall, while his muscular tattooed arms wrapped around her throat, still he was gentle enough not to hurt her. Her eyes filled with tears, she looked deep into his dark galaxies. Only to feel 1,000 times stab as his eyes was also filled for the first time. She hated herself for being the reason of it. And that's the fine moment she craved that he killed her. But how could he? The worst of worst punishment one could get was to die in guilt, and she was going through it. She betrayed him. She was his enemy's daughter, who came to him just to destroy him. But in that process, she didn't realize that her gold was burned into ashes in his love. Her intentions was nothing in front of this man, who unconditionally loved her. And eventually, her grudges knelt down, and she let herself drown in him, drown in his love. He fall for her, but she fall harder. But indeed, a house of cards won't last longer, and in the fear of losing him, she never had the guts to tell him the truth. So she kept it as a secret, but neither today or tomorrow it was anyways gonna come out, and in the end, her worst nightmare came true. Jungkook, everything was a lie. Why? Are you gonna believe me if it wasn't? She looked into his eyes, his grip loosened around her throat. On the contemporary of truth, her eyes spitted sincerity, but at that point, he was too blinded by anger and misery that he wasn't able to recognize it. Stepping back from her, he said in his deep voice, "Leave." She was the first one who was still alive after betraying him. Even if he wanted to hurt her, his body would stay numb as no matter what, he still loved her so dear. And there her steps was retrieving her. She wanted to embrace him and cry to her death, but she chose to leave as she thought he was too good for a betrayer like her, and she didn't deserve him. I agreed that she hurt him. She broke him into pieces, but what about her living in a fear of losing him every day and night? She also did had a heart which was ripping every second. She hid her identity, but that wasn't her reality. Thousands of times she wanted to change it, but she couldn't. And again her fate was so cruel. Blood oozing out from her forehead, her head resting on the steering, broken glass pieces piercing her skin. She was half conscious, but it wasn't for too long as darkness conquered her eyes. And at that moment, only she knew how bad she wanted to never open them again. Resting in his home office, his mind was occupied with her thoughts. The roller coaster of events that took place. It was hard for him, but his thoughts was interrupted by a phone call. Jungkook. God. Sir, ma'am was met with an accident. Opening his eyes, his heart dropped. Fear engulfed him. The fear which you were going through all the time. The fear of losing. Yes, he was angry at her. He was angry at her for making him a fool. But above all the excuses and allegations, he still loved her, and there was no way he was going to let her go. He wanted some time. In the end, he was ready to forgive her, locking her petile body in his muscular arms, making her rest her head on his chest and pulling her more closer and softly whispering, "It's okay, Peach. We can start everything from the beginning." But was it too late? No, it wasn't. Maybe too late is far better than never. And he was never going to let her go. Running through the hospital hallway, he was panting heavily, but was stopped by the guards surrounded the hallway. And in this chaos, his gaze diverted to the man who was sitting near the door with tear-stained eyes, which was red. His gaze was on the floor, being completely shattered and quiet. Maybe he wasn't the only broken person present there. In a corner, there was also a father who didn't even know under what circumstances his only ray of light reached to a position where she had to fight between life and death. He didn't know why and went to Jungkook as a spy. If he knew, he would never let her put herself in danger. She was raised by her father without a mother. He provided her with all his love, and just as so, she also loved him with whole her life. When she saw him getting worried about his business and mafia works, without a second thought, she left to help him. And today, when he got to know all the truth, he was broken, as he also felt maybe somewhere he was also a reason for her big step. Pushing away all the guards, he stood in front of Mr. Kim with a number of guns pointed towards him. He was all alone, unarmed. Mr. Kim looked up at him with no emotion. He was his lethal enemy and thought Jungkook came for revenge as he knew all the story. Dropping himself on his knees in front of his lethal enemy, he spoke, "Please, let me meet her for once. I beg you." Everyone was stunned by his move, including Mr. Kim, as he knew he was the king who could bring anyone on his knees with his power. But today, he was kneeling in front of his lethal enemy for his woman. His steps halted watching her body lying lifeless with many wires attached to her body. Her eyes covered with a thick bandage, still unconscious. And there, he was being stabbed again and again. Yes, he was angry on her, but his anger was not even that much worse that he wanted to see her in this condition, and he stayed beside her unconscious figure, hoping everything to be normal like before. "I'm sorry to say this, Mr. Kim, but due to the accident, some of the glass pieces pierced into her eyes. Because of that, she won't be able to see again. Transplant is possible, but for that, her injury should be healed till then." At this point, the father couldn't hold back his emotion. He indeed loved his princess so dearly, and watching her suffering like this, he couldn't bear it. And as he broke down, there was a warm hand beside him, giving him support. Even though he was going through the same pain, "Jungkook, everything will be fine. We have to be strong for her. We will fight for her." Mr. Kim looked into Jungkook's eyes. Only he knew how much those words meant to him. Even though he was his enemy, those words indeed helped him. They had to be strong for her. A glass-shattering voice was heard all over the mansion. Maybe the person was more shattered as it was pitch dark all over for her. The room was a complete mess, and there she was, in a corner. Her pale face, tear-stained cheeks, and dry lips were showing her pathetic condition. How cruel her fate was. She did a mistake, but the punishment she was going through was indeed more than she could handle, as out of all, she was scared of darkness. "Ma'am, please have something." "Why?" "I said I don't want." You were again going to throw the things and was about to hurt yourself, but was stopped by a strong arm holding your wrist tightly. You were pulled on a strong chest. His strong colleague hit your nostrils, and it was not hard for you to recognize him. For a moment, she was still, but again those bitter memories flooded into her, and she started to wriggle to get out of his grip. And in that process, she was hurting herself. She was getting a panic attack. Holding her wrist, he pulled her onto him. Sitting on the bed, locking her petile body in his arms, he cradled her in his lap. Her back leaned on his hard chest and his wrist locking her. He hugged her tightly, restricting her to move. Breathe, Peach, breathe. How desperate she wanted to see him, but it was all pitch black. And in that darkness, the only thing which was calming her was his soothing voice. I'm scared, Cook. Jungkook, I'm here. Breathe. Making her lean on his chest, whispering sweet words. Her body was calming, hearing his heartbeat. And slowly, she was slipping into a deep slumber on his lap. Looking down at her sleeping figure, he placed a tender kiss on her forehead. Let's go through this together. Ryan, I don't want any bodyguard, and especially not him. Mr. Kim. Princess, try to understand. Ryan, I know exactly what you all are trying to do, but please, it's over. Mr. Kim. He is going to be your bodyguard, and that's final. Ryan, wasn't he your enemy? Mr. Kim, you know. Don't you want to make everything normal? Ryan, no, I don't. I don't want to repeat the same mistake again. And I deserve to suffer. You left from there. Mr. Kim, I'm trusting you. Jungkook, don't worry, sir. I'll bring her old self back. Mr. Kim, please, sir. I can't see her this vulnerable. Jungkook, I promise. Please trust me. Jungkook, why are you still not ready? We need to visit the doctor. Ryan, I'm not going anywhere. Leave. Jungkook, get ready. Ryan, why don't you understand? You felt a pull which made you fall on his hard chest. You felt his breathing so close to your face, making your heartbeat rise. Jungkook, I won't repeat it, Miss Kim. Get changed. Gritting your teeth and maintaining an angry face, you tried to hide your facade of nervousness, but it broke within a second hearing his chuckle by seeing you visibly gulping. And indeed it made you clear that not by ice, just his breathing is enough to make you go weak on your knees. Jungkook, I'll be waiting. Doctor, your eyes can be recovered, Miss Fagan. Your injury are not healed completely, but we can perform the surgery after 3 months. Why? I don't want any surgery. Jungkook, you may fix the date, doctor. Why don't you guys just understand in one go, huh? When I say I don't want any treatment, then I don't. Just leave me alone. With that, she rushed out. Jungkook was running behind you. You were able to get hit with one of the table, but someone pulled you back, caging you in his arms. You were wiggling to get out of his grip, but it was only getting tightened, finally making you calm. Lifting you in his arms, he walked out of the hospital. The whole ride was silent until you chose to speak. Ryan, I deserve to suffer in this darkness. I should. He stopped the car with a jerk. Grabbing her jaw, he pulled her face dangerously close to his. His breath hitting her face, he spoke. Jungkook, dare to come like that? You'll see what I'll do. Jerking off his hands, you came out of the car. You hated it. You hated yourself for hurting him. You hated the way how this man was taking care of you, even after breaking him. And indeed, it was a universal truth that nothing hurts more than concise and regret. Your eyes filled with tears, you were walking in darkness, having no idea that you were in the middle of the road. And out of blue, you heard a car horn so close, you were froze at the spot. But you felt a harsh pull and you landed on his hard chest. Your head resting on his chest, you could feel how fast his heart was pounding. His arms encircled around your body. You could feel him shivering, his breath uneven. But he broke the hug. Harshly holding your shoulder, he shouted, "Where the hell were you trying to go, idiot? What if I wasn't here? What if something happened?" His voice broke in the end. He again engulfed you in his arms. You heard his sobs breaking your heart. Maybe you didn't know what was happening, but he literally died a few minutes before seeing you so close to death, and both broke down completely in each other's embrace. Carrying you in his arms, he made you stand on your feet. Knelting down in front of you, he removed your sandals. You felt the wet sand under your feet and the cold waves brushed against your feet. Your mind felt peace as then you felt his arms sneaking around your waist, hugging you from behind. His chin rested on your shoulder. Both stayed in silence, trying to cool down their burning hearts. I betrayed you, Cook. I broke your heart, and now what I'm going through, I deserve this. I don't deserve your love, Jungkook. And you'll decide it all alone? Just leave me, Cook. I deserve this. This is my punishment. Jungkook, your punishment is ripping me apart more than you, Peach. How could you even forgive me? Jungkook, what you did hurt me, but because of that one fault, how could I forget your love and care when I had no one by my side? How could I forget how you became my family when I was just an orphan? If I started to narrate everything, then there will be no end. Maybe it was started with a lie, but we'll make it to the end together with our love, till we grow old together, and I'm never gonna let you go, ever. And don't think I'll forgive you easily. You have to bear me for the rest of your life, and I'm gonna tightly bond you with me, and there will be no escape. Let's start it all over again. Bring me more tears, she hummed. Cupping your cheeks softly with his big hands, he gently captured your lips, kissing you deeply with his whole love, where you also kissed him back with the same passion. Maybe love is not just about sharing only happiness. It's a mixture of every single emotion, until and unless you walk on holding each other's hand till the end. Your eye surgery was successful, and holding your father's hand, you were walking down the aisle, looking eternally beautiful in the wedding gown, where you met his gaze, where he was looking incredibly handsome. Soon, you stood in front of him while your father gave your hands in his with a smile. After all, he wanted a man who would treat his princess as a queen. Pulling you closer by your waist, he smashed his lips on you, kissing you deeply yet passionately, and everyone cheered for the new couple.